moving on to more video game news, we have the Microsoft purchase. Who's this guy? Anyways, another IGN article. Matt TM Kim, I guess that's him. Another video game article on IGN. Microsoft's $7.5 billion acquisition of Zenimax Media, the parent company of developers like Bethesda, Arcane, id Software, and more, has been finalized. So, officially, Microsoft owns Bethesda. Bethesda Game Studios company makes games like Fallout, Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls, Fallout games, and who cares about the other games? No, they also make Wolfenstein and I believe Doom, if I'm not mistaken, which is cool. I'm not sure on Doom. I don't really have any stake in this, but I think it's a big acquisition regardless, because one, it was $7.5 billion. I think that they overpaid there. $1 billion? It's a lot of money. I mean, Microsoft has that kind of money to throw around. Just look at Bill Gates, but goddamn. Anyways, I think that's crazy. It's also a huge game publisher, independent game publisher. Bethesda was essentially so big that they reserved time at E3, which is the biggest video gaming conference of all time per year, annually. They reserved time at E3 for the past couple of years to talk about their games. And even though the last time they had an in-person E3, they didn't really announce much. And they haven't really been announcing much for the past couple of years. I honestly think the last great Bethesda game was Skyrim, IMHO. I didn't really like Fallout 4, even though I beat it. I didn't have that much fun playing it. I liked Fallout 3 a lot. Skyrim, obviously one of the greatest games of all time. It's a great game. So let's take a look at which studios are involved, because Microsoft's purchase of this company is probably, I don't know what else Zenimax does, but it's probably the largest direct impact that we'll see is we'll see Microsoft using these studios to make video games. I don't really know what else Zenimax does, but Alpha Dog Games, Arcane Studios, including offices in Lyon, France, and Austin, Texas. Bethesda Softworks, which is in Maryland. I think Bethesda, Maryland. They also have Bethesda Game Studios in Austin, Bethesda Game Studios in Dallas, and Bethesda Game Studios in Montreal. id Software, I think id Software makes Doom. Includes offices in Richardson, Texas, and Frankfurt, Germany. Machine Games, Roadhouse Studios, Tango Gameworks, and Zenimax Online Studios. So that's what Microsoft has purchased for $7.6 billion. I'm sure Bethesda's very happy about this purchase, or Zenimax Studio, because they get a lot of money. But I guess the conversation is about the exclusivity of these games now. So prior to the acquisition here, in Xbox Wire, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox Game Studios, I believe, says that now that everything is official, we can begin working together to deliver more great games to everyone. And essentially, the conversation is, again, around exclusivity, because Microsoft hasn't really been in the game of having exclusives recently, of the past almost decade now, right? We've been talking about, or even honestly further back, go back to the 360 years, right? You had Halo, you had Gears, and then you had Forza, and those were the three big tent poles of the Xbox ecosystem. Otherwise, every other game was essentially on PlayStation. So, but don't get me wrong, I loved Halo 3, and it was worth owning an Xbox for. But all the other games were on PlayStation. But now they've sort of evolved into this company that has the Xbox Game Pass, which allows players to play all their games for $10 a month, a lot of their games. Certainly the idea is that all the first-party games now that Microsoft owns, which include Bethesda games, by the way, are going to be on Xbox Game Pass. So that's really cool. You can play all these games for $10 a month. But everyone's afraid of all these future Bethesda games not coming to PlayStation now. I think you guys need to take a step back and realize that Bethesda hasn't released anything good in pretty much over a decade. And I think people who are, in my honest opinion, so if people who are worried about that, I think you should realize that Bethesda hasn't done anything of real significance since Skyrim, in my honest opinion. So let's take a look at what Phil Spencer said, or Pete Hines. So in a separate blog post, Bethesda's Pete Hines wrote, "We're not making any landmark announcements to changes right now, but added that we'll be working on putting even more of our games into Game Pass than ever before." So that's really good news for people who like Bethesda games. So Spencer did make one major point clearing up some of the speculation around whether Bethesda games would be exclusive to Xbox. With the addition of the Bethesda creative teams, gamers should know that Xbox consoles, PC, and Game Pass will be the best place to experience new Bethesda games, including some new titles in the future that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC players. Bingo. So they're going to basically make some of these games exclusive, I would say. The new games. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, they spent a lot of money for a reason. So I don't really like the idea of exclusivity. It does seem like Microsoft is buying their way into exclusivity, but as you may remember, I mean, it's just been this way for a while, but Sony did the same thing. They purchased a lot of studios, and Nintendo did the same thing, I'm sure. Just we don't hear too much about it because it's so long ago. And now we just are ingrained in our mind that Sony has all these studios like Sucker Punch and Naughty Dog and all these great gaming studios, and they've made such great games for PlayStation, and they have, don't get me wrong. But it's like that's part of Sony now and not big boy Microsoft, who's just buying their way into this. But you know what? I mean, how else do you get exclusive games? I think you have to make these big money deals in order to get these exclusive games. Otherwise, why wouldn't a developer put their game out on every platform that they can? So I think it's good for Microsoft and Microsoft fans, but I honestly don't really care too much. They have to show me a game, like, everyone's very excited for this game Starfield and the next Elder Scrolls game, but honestly, and they have the right to be, of course. The last Elder Scrolls game was amazing. Skyrim was great, but they essentially just have logos at this point, and I don't know. I don't know. You gotta show me something for me to be excited about a video game. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. That's all the updates we have on this now. Of course, I think we're going to come out and see that some of the games, it is going to be a case-by-case basis. Some of the games, like Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop, are going to be on PlayStation. They've already been announced. Deathloop's coming out this year, which is cool. And I think going forward after those games, they're probably just going to be exclusive. That's just my opinion. But that's why you have a PC player situation here. At the very least, Microsoft lets PC players play their Xbox games. I wish Sony did the same thing. And honestly, I wish Nintendo did too. But you can't have everything, gamers. Just relax. It's not the most important information. I think that's probably the biggest thing happening in gaming right now. Moving on.